Okay, so this is a picture of me from about a year ago, and this is a picture of me now. Needless to say, I've put on a few pounds. But one of my goals for this year is to get back to that point. And while this is by no means a fitness channel or advice on what you should do, thinking back on it, one of the big things that I was doing back then that I kind of stopped doing was getting my 10,000 steps a day in. So to help me get back on track with that, I thought it might be a good idea to set up a walking desk. And anybody who's read James Clear's Atomic Habits can tell you that an important step in forming a good habit, like taking 10,000 steps a day, is to make it easy to do the right thing. And since I'm already spending a ridiculous average of like 10 hours of screen time a day anyways, I thought I might as well try to get some movement in during that time. And I know you might be thinking, Jesse, why don't you just go outside and take a walk? And well, a lot of my work revolves around the computer, and I also enjoy playing some games. And I figured it'd be a lot easier just to bundle those activities that I was already doing with some exercise rather than just stopping that altogether and going outside. So even though this may be like a temporary solution, it is my solution for now. And in this video, I thought I might try something a little different from my usual desk setup tours and take you guys along the process of my decision-making process for the setup. So as far as deciding where this was gonna go, a couple of weeks ago, I moved my main desk setup out of my bedroom into a dedicated office space. And it seemed pretty natural just to put this where my old desk used to be. So with the location figured out, the first step was, of course, to build the desk. And in this area, Vernal hooked me up with their all-in-one desk system, which I gotta say worked out pretty perfectly for the setup. The desk was one of the easiest I've ever assembled because most of the annoying parts were already done for you before you took it out of the box. And all you have to do is attach the legs. I also appreciated how they pre-drilled most of the holes that you need with no guesswork involved, and they include some accessories that you usually have to buy separately, like a cable management tray. I also really like this desk shell that they sent over. It's an extra feature that you can buy separately, but I feel like it's kind of worth it because it really makes this look much more appropriate in a home setting. Like standing desks usually feel really office-y and struggle to fit into a bedroom, but this makes it feel much more furniture-y, if that makes sense. The only minor hiccup that I ran into was that if you get the integrated keyboard tray with the desk shell, there's not enough space to also have the under desk drawer, because it'll end up hitting the shell. I know those are pretty specific circumstances, but I just wanted to mention that because it would be a pretty huge bummer if you ended up buying that whole combo and then found out it wouldn't work together, because I didn't realize it until after I installed it. But they have a bunch of cool accessories like this desk shelf, powered pop-up grommet, and a filing cabinet that they sent over as well. And I also really appreciated how everything was pretty reasonably priced. Like for the quality that you're getting, I think the price is very fair. But once all that was built, the next step was to figure out how to configure everything on the desk. So as usual, I took it into Procreate and started sketching out some ideas. And after a few drafts, I finally ended up with this, a dual monitor setup utilizing the MacBook's built-in display. And to be able to fit everything onto the shelf, I got the Harman Kardon sound sticks, which have super narrow satellite speakers. These are a classic, and I've loved the design of these speakers ever since I first saw them a few years ago, but they're just kind of hard to fit into a setup because the sub needs to be on the desktop rather than on the floor like most other subs. But I was pretty determined to make it work. So I got to building it up, and once everything was put into place, I ran into a couple of issues. First was I couldn't utilize my favorite Orbit Key desk mat because the laptop stand would have ran into the cable management strip. Second, the laptop stand was surprisingly unstable, which was especially a problem for a walking desk setup because anytime I took a step, the laptop would wobble like crazy, which drove me crazy. Third, the sub blocked the pop-up outlet, which I could definitely learn to live with, but it just wasn't ideal. And fourth, even though I measured everything and technically it did fit, it just felt really cramped. So in light of all those problems, I decided to go back to the drawing board, and after a little thinking, I felt that it'd be best just to remove the laptop screen and just have a single monitor setup. And doing that would allow me to put the sub on the shelf with the monitor and the speakers, which freed up the pop-up outlet as well. And not having the laptop stand meant that I wouldn't have to worry about the wobbling, and I could use the Orbit Key desk mat, which I really like because it offers a couple of features like that cable management tray and document hideaway that other desk mats just don't really offer. And instead of putting the laptop on the stand, I got a vertical mount from Human Centric so the laptop could take up a lot less desk space. And with those changes, the setup was really starting to take shape, and all that was left to put on the finishing touches and hook everything up. First, as always, I had to include a Thunderbolt dock to connect all the peripherals so that it would just take one cable to connect my laptop to everything else. For the mouse, of course, I had to go with the Logitech MX Master 3S. I think I have about 4 of these now just because they're so good and I have to have them at every setup. Next, for the keyboard, I went with the LumenKey 80. This thing is super premium and heavy duty, types really well, and I think the clean black color scheme goes really well with the rest of the setup. Now, one of the things that I always advocate for people to pay more attention to is lighting. So for this setup, I went with the trusty BenQ Screen Bar Halo. The quality of light that it produces is just superb, and I think it's really hard to find a good replacement for it. It also does produce a bit of backlighting, and in a pinch, I think it does the trick, but for me, I wanted something a little bit brighter, so I added some Hue play bars, which really brighten it up. And I know those may seem a bit overkill, but you really can tell the difference, and once you get used to having them there, you'll never want to go back. And of course, I can't forget the walking part of the walking desk. So for the treadmill, I went with the Walking Pad X21, which I really like because it folds up in a very convenient way. Like if I need some more walking room or want to vacuum under it, I can just fold it in half and then up, so it takes up almost no floor space. It's also pretty decently powered, like it can go up to 7.5 miles per hour, which I don't really do because this is on my second floor, but it's nice to know that it can do it if I need. And I've tried some of the other cheaper options as far as like walking treadmills go, and a lot of them have the same issue where when you take a step, it just kind of like stutters for a second and really messes up the rhythm of my walking, and it's just overall a really bad experience. Now, I don't know if that's just because I'm like fat or something, but this treadmill doesn't really give me that same problem, which I really like. But yeah, that's pretty much all the tech involved with this setup, but one way to really add the cherry on top is to add some good artwork to the walls. I've got some of my prints that I'm gonna hang up here, and if you want something like this for yourself, I'm selling these on my website at jchen.store. The ones on here are just a couple of the ones that you can find on the website, and it's a great way to support the channel and add some personality to your own setup. So yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with how the setup came out. I'm really glad that I found a way to incorporate the sound sticks into the setup because I really do love the way that these things look. Like, don't get me wrong, I love me a good set of bookshelf speakers, and I think you can get better sound for the money, but man, these things are like art. But hopefully having this set up in my room encourages me to walk more, and I gotta say, since setting this up, I've been getting a lot better about getting my step goals in. And of course, I'm not saying that you need to have a setup like this in order to get your steps in, but I think if you are able to, it does kind of help to have a setup like this just ready to go. Like removing every bit of friction between the time that you want to take a walk and you actually walking is a step in the right direction. And of course, most of these setup tips can be applied to any desk setup, not just walking desks. I'll try to leave links to everything in the description box below, and if you find anything useful, let me know in the comments. But that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.